here. We so appreciate it. Characterize where we are in this fight.
Maria, I think it's important for the whole world to realize that the first victim of this whole situation were the people of Iran, with a regime that is at war with them, let alone the rest of the region, and perhaps beyond that. The policy of appeasement and laissez-faire has led us to where we are today. We could have a different situation in the Middle East without this regime. But as long as this regime is going to be there, none of the threats and the consequences of its behavior will be eliminated. And sadly, as you referred to October 7th and that attack, this clearly shows, especially when Ayatollah Khamenei actually defends that act and justifies it, where exactly they stand, as opposed to the Iranian people who have clearly demonstrated that this regime has nothing to do with their aspirations. And I'm glad that leaders such as Prime Minister Netanyahu does make that distinction. And it has to be right now a distinction that I hope many leaders around the world will make between the people of Iran and this regime.
So is there a message that you want to convey to the people of Iran versus the regime, which obviously is behind this death and destruction?
I think the Iranian people will be the first one to tell all of us that they realize that if they are in a position to show the whole world and our region, our neighbors, whether they're Arabs or Jews or Muslims or Christians or whatever faith they represent, that we want peace with them. We want to be able to have cordial relations with them. We want to build a better future for all of us in that region that we can all collectively benefit from. And what stands between us, the Iranian people, and the rest of the world and our neighbors is this regime. And as long as this regime is there, our primary duty is to do our part in getting rid of it, but we will hope that the world this time stands with us as opposed to continue trying to negotiate deals with a regime that cannot be trusted, that has proven time and again that its only objective is to use every resource of my country to export its ideology at the expense of the Iranian people themselves.
You make such an important point here, and I want to go back to it, and that is how it is possible that Iran was able to generate so many billions of dollars to support these terrorist proxies. The administration, Kamala Harris and Joe Biden, keep saying, oh, no, we never, changed the sanctions. The sanctions have been on Iran. But were they actually enforced?
They were not, because the $100+ billion that the regime had access to a couple years ago, closing into what happened and ultimately led to empowering it to support its proxies, including Hezbollah and Hamas, of course, didn't come from nowhere. If those old sanctions were imposed, that would be $100 billion less for the regime to spend. Not to mention, of course, the ransom money for hostages that was also paid to the regime, about $6.5 billion, if I'm not mistaken. And so all of this money is not going to, help Iranian workers who are being not paid their salaries for a long time. Instead, it goes to support the proxies.
Characterize for us, if you will, the capacity of Iran with all of the oil potential there. I'm not going to ask you, should Israel bomb the oil assets or should Israel bomb the nuclear sites? I know you're not going to agree to any bombing of the Iranian people, but assess the potential that Iran has in terms of that oil. How do you see that?
Well, if you're talking overall about how much money the regime depends on to maintain, its own war machine going, finance its nuclear program, pay wages to their hired help, and address some aspects of running the country, it's got to give at some point. They cannot sustain that kind of expenditure, especially if they are short on revenue. So if they in fact provoke more escalation to the point that they may be deprived of that ability, it will create an incredible economic shock to the nation that will not be advantageous even to the regime itself. Today, it's been about almost 1 week that the Iranian stock market has been dropping. The dollar is more expensive now. So this is even before anything happens. These are all correlated. So I don't know how crazy or lunacy the leader in Iran has in mind to continue